For those who have joined for the first time, this is part of the Heritage Agriculture webinar series. This is a project that we are doing with funding from the Asia Foundation and in partnership with Agaun Technologies. We are covering 4 different commodities as a part of the study, mahua being the most prominent one. In fact, the first one that we started our project with. Then there is galgal, there is turmeric, and there is jamun. So if you have seen our webinar so far, I mean, we have covered jamun, we have covered mahua, galgal we are doing next week. But Rishabh was probably the first partner that we spoke with, first contributor to the report, also to the field study. I think we will have your name in bold letters in credits when we write the report. We spent, so I'll give you a chance to speak, but I think people need to know the background that this is not like any other webinar that we have done, because we spent 3 days in Ranchi with Rishabh and team. We saw the kind of work that they're doing. In fact, the interview and the questionnaire that we needed from Rishabh has already been filled up. So this webinar is for the benefit of the audience. And also because I think, the other Mahua's people that we spoke with, in fact, most of the Mahua guys that we are speaking with have their own niche and domain. And the great thing that we have seen in the Mahua sector is, even if they are theoretically competitors, they are all actual collaborators, not potentially, but even now they are all collaborators. And when I call one and take the name of the other, they're actually happy that, Rishabh is doing good work. Or when I spoke about Jai Jungle with you, you had a similar feedback. So I love this bonhomie that this sector has. But Rishabh, happy to be speaking with you again.
Likewise. Thank you.
And of all the topics that we could choose, I chose specifically, marketing, brand building, and storytelling, because if I have to do an analysis of all the brands, and let's say if there is a Mahua association tomorrow, I'll probably vote for you to spearhead the marketing team. So, right. So I think, it'll be more of a freewheeling chat. I mean, I think every
Sure.
other
Sure.
webinar I have 6 or 7 questions that I put forward. And I actually say that we just need answers to these 7, and then we open for audience questions. But this will be more freewheeling.
Sure.
If audience has questions, raise your hand, turn your camera on, ask it. But what we needed to begin from is, you have an amazing brand, from the name to the logo designs. And when we got the packets back, everybody here was like, we love the font and the logo and the colors on the packets, etc. And in fact, most of your social media storytelling also compares mahua with, let's say, a blueberry, etc., which, urban audiences mostly associate with. So my question is the title of the webinar. When you think of mahua as a commodity for the urban consumer, where did that idea come from, and how have you been following that in terms of actions?
So, like you said, right, in terms of comparing, so I'll go with first, how did I see mahua as an ingredient before I even started the brand, or how did I interact with it? The first idea, or during inception, the first thing was to, hey, let's check out what kind of mahua is out there. So Amazon had brands, Ved, Baba, Go Pure, and I just ordered from them. And I got Market Mahua delivered to me. They would charge 350 rupees for 250 grams. Terrible quality. Mahua flowers. Sorry, I shouldn't be taking brand names, but yeah, like it was on Amazon, couple of generic
Yeah.
brands, and I got that, and it was quite disheartening to see that. And whenever I spoke to chefs in the early days, and sort of, like after my first harvest, I was so confident on this particular ingredient and flower and flavor of when mahua is harvested ethically and harvested scientifically, that every chef had a good feedback, and they had seen nothing like this kind of a flower being sent to them earlier. So that's why I suppose mahua, even in the food space, a lot of chefs had experimented with it, right? Like it's omnipresent in the central Indian landscape, but it never got adopted properly, because it was always, fluctuation and quality, inconsistency, etc. And I never saw, like, earlier I was also skeptical because mahua flowers have a unique taste, right? It's not your run of the mill flavor profile. It's not sweet, or it's not sour, or it's not bitter. It's a complex flavor profile. So first was just testing it out with audiences and seeing how they're reacting, and it was quite pleasing to sort of hear even kids liking the flavor, so that sort of started instilling more confidence in me. And the goal was again to, because the nutritional profile of the flower is so exceptional, the ingredient is so exceptional, so it should be presented in an exceptional manner. It should be presented well. It should be presented in a way that when you see a blueberry packet and when you see a mahua packet, the mahua packet should make the blueberry look weak. Because the first purchase does not happen by taste in a grocery store or online. It's by visuals. So it was about having spending a lot of time. Again, I didn't do the designing. It was a great designer who we hired to do the designing. But it was the thought behind the designing went a long way, because we come from Jharkhand and I work with communities predominantly in Jharkhand till 2026. Now we're slowly working with communities outside of Jharkhand. I wanted the packaging, the brand, the logo to represent that, but in a subtle manner. I had seen brands putting Gond artwork or Madhubani artwork and sort of taking that angle. I could have done that with Sohrai and Kovar, but I wanted it to be a little more modern, a little more contemporary, while keeping the aesthetics of Jharkhand somehow come through. Like the dried mahua flower packets has this blue color. Now, this blue color, when you went around Jharkhand, you might have seen it in the mud houses. I love that blue color. It somehow reminds me of rural Jharkhand. It's not mud color. People also started using paint rurally. It's not that they just color, walls with mud. So, and it has the trace of a deer from a Sohrai artwork, so the font is inspired by Mundari, but it's not Mundari. So it's taking inspiration and sort of filtering it through a contemporary lens, and having sort of a strong, meaningful language behind the brand, which sort of conveys what we're trying to do. It's something that comes from the rural heartland, but it is meant for the urban consumer. So we try to balance sort of both in a meaningful manner. Yeah.
You know, uh, I'll still call you a startup. I think,
Yeah, for sure. We're early stage.
yeah, yeah. No, because I mean, we think over the years we have become very sensitive about that phrase anyway. Like, what is a
Mhm.
startup? Do you want to be? So when I was talking with Samarth, I mean, he's like, no, we are a farmer producer company. We are not a startup because we're not registered yet. But you
Right.
can call me a startup if you want. But my point being, when we went to study turmeric in Kandhamal, and one of the key missing pieces that we saw was there are no startups.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and I'm not just talking about new ideas or new energy. I mean,
Right.
I think startups kind of fill a space where there are the farmer producer companies, there were the government cooperatives, government aided cooperative, etc., etc. I mean, the non-governmental and governmental sectors. Um, But what we saw in Mahua is in terms of, let's say, the packaging storytelling that you are trying. You have gone out and talked about nutritional value all on your own. I mean, I don't think that comes from the
Hmm.
established practice. Jai Jungle, for example, said, okay, no, we will first make people try mahua as a taste and then go into subsidiary commodities, because so far people don't even know what a good mahua looks like or tastes like.
Right.
So there are ideas, but there is a conviction in terms of how to take it to market. And what we saw in turmeric is the sector hasn't exactly evolved in terms of product positioning, in terms of product innovation, in terms of anything beyond a whole turmeric or a powder, right? So, I mean, easy question for you, because you actually are a startup and can represent that ecosystem. But do you think, and here I want to think, ask you beyond just mahua. Same with Google, right? When we saw Google, I mean, there was um, no innovative startups. In Jamun, there is one company again uh, which is now doing tens of crores of business, and which has completely revolutionized the Jamun value chain, uh, from products to positioning to exports to putting on Amazon.com, etc. Uh, so coming back to the missing piece in an ecosystem, be it a new product like Mahua or an old one like turmeric, do you think startups are necessary? I mean, or is there a way to, you know, that if we have to, and my interest in this is when I'm talking about the other three commodities and I'm going to the government and saying, here it is either vibrant, less vibrant, or non existent at all. Do you think it is a critical and necessary piece to have if you want to take a commodity to a new consumer?
I personally believe it is a spoke in the wheel, right? Like for me, like when there are more startups coming in and promoting a commodity, uh, it enhances that commodity reaching more people. Uh, I would like to take the example, like in Ladakh, I've been seeing a lot of startups around, say, sea buckthorn or apricots. You know, we have to realize that FPOs uh, are awesome. I believe FPOs are supremely important. But again, that marketing, that branding, that sort of, how to take it to market with with a new commodity. It's not easy to take it to market. You're not going to be breaking even 3 to 5 years, maybe. Right. So that is where, in my opinion, startups can play a role because that risk taking ability is there. Some startups might be funded, they recognize that it'll take 5 years for this to actually
Yeah.
break even, and then it might start giving profits. So that sort of risk taking ability comes through entrepreneurship. Whereas, an FPO might not have that capital infusion or might not have that risk taking ability to take that sort of product or a new product for an urban consumer to the next level in a way. To really expand the consumer base for that product, it needs some risk. It needs putting in cost and putting in efforts of different kinds. So I believe entrepreneurship, according to me, is important to push a new sort of product or a new category into the ecosystem. That being said, I do believe that uh, this can work if the entrepreneurship is also ethical. It is
Yeah.
also, cognizant of the produce that they're selling. It's not being overly harvested like sea buckthorn. I heard some horror stories with sea buckthorn with because it's such a hard fruit to pick. If you over harvest it, you're literally cutting down sea buckthorn forests. So uh, I'm like again like I've not studied much about Seabuckthorn, but I don't know if this is truth or not, but I'm just taking an example, right? Like, so, how do you build an ethical entrepreneurship ecosystem, especially around non-cultivated produce? What is ethical harvesting? And this will differ from produce to produce, right? Like, it is not one size fits all solution. So I think that is something that, again, when you build an ecosystem, these things should be thought of, because then if it's over harvested, you're done in like 3 years, you might not be getting that produce. So yeah, that's my thought. I hope that was
Yeah, no, that kind of a answers. Again, talking about ecosystem. So the good thing is, given that I don't have questions, we can just refer back to,
yeah.
as you did with Seabuckthorn, I can refer back to other interviews and other
Hmm.
speakers and what they said. So while we are speaking about Jamun and this, and with in fact all four commodities, I mean, the moment you say there is a tribal connection, um, even Jamun, I mean, I think Jamun is more because you see them in urban spheres. I mean, it's probably not identified as um, a, a tribal or a forest produce,
Yeah.
but if you look at volumes, I mean, that's what it is.
Hmm.
So, so when you are talking with Travel Veda, I mean, they said how they actively process at the point of collection. In fact, two examples I want to talk about. One, he said, okay, no, because you can't just collect because it's such a short uh,
Right. That's right.
harvest period. I mean, you can't just collect it in 15 days, employ them for a month, and then vanish. Like, that doesn't work.
Right.
So first, and then he was like, how the governments or the, World Banks, etc., have funded projects which have refused to take in, haven't taken off, and then how he has entered the scene and kind of made them functional by processing at center, I mean source.
Yeah.
That's one. And second was, as you said, over harvesting and responsible collection, etc. So what they have also done is they said, because the women feel so bad about leaving produce on the ground because they think it's going to waste, and they
Mm-hmm.
mix it with the jamun that is collected from the nets.
Right.
And he was like, how that spoils the whole batch, but you can't just go back and punish them for
Yeah.
mixing, because they're like, this is what sustainability means. They're like, okay, no, we don't want to let the product go waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he said, I created two value chains. One, which is food grade jamun, and
Right.
second, he did a vegan leather innovation, and now they have jamun bags and wallets and etc. So he's like, I'm paying them less, but then that kind of keeps my batches sanitized.
Yeah. Yeah.
So two, one is the jamun story, leather story is the innovation story, but the first piece is again ecosystem. That because you are working in an ecosystem where they may not have income around most of the times of the year,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to process, give employment, etc. Uh, you are doing something similar, right? Because we have seen that the families, the collector families, etc., are also part of collecting, drying, packing it for you, etc. Um, are you? So my question here is, when the sector expands, because right now, let's say as also part of the report, we are trying to write that how what the
Mm-hmm.
guidelines should be,
Yeah.
uh, which Samarth from Jai Jungle said, you know, FSI needs to act, or regulators need to act on what qualifies as food grade mahua.
Yeah.
We need to at least have set standards in sort of moisture, sugar content, etc. Um, Not everybody should be allowed to sell anything that they, and you kind of see that fear coming, right? Once the sector expands. Um,
Mhm.
so in terms of ecosystem, what would you like to see? Is it in terms of food testing? Is it in terms of government investing in processing, or at least giving away funds? Um,
Yeah.
uh, so what is that? From processing to testing to go to market. Uh,
Right.
be it government, be it World Bank, I mean, or any large funder. What would you like to
Right.
see?
Yeah. First is again like how government push just awareness of say millets or makhana or like just first informing people at mass that mahua is something that can be eaten.
Mm,
With a jamun or with a millet or with a, like there's no inherent negative association with the food produce. Whereas with mahua, it comes with an inherent sort of preconceived notion by even most urban audiences that, oh, ye khayenge to chad jayegi. Like
mm,
this negative association with. So, firstly, like there needs to be, if to tell people that, hey, mahua is food, and it's a nutritious food. Then you need to, of course, as Samarth also said, I totally agree. Like, what is qualifying as food grade mahua needs to be proper standardized, because most people, even B2B, chase prices, right? Like, so if they because say mahua starts picking up, they might go to the mandi and pick up mahua at 30, 40, 50 rupees and start making products and selling. Now that will again negatively affect mahua's goodwill. So I think that is primary. Second, what you spoke about, providing sort of livelihoods through processing, uh, I believe that is very important. But uh, again, speaking just in Jharkhand, right? There are a lot of complications when you go to processing at source currently.
mhm,
Electricity is a major problem. Right. Like, second, like communities have rhythms. For example, in monsoon, a community will not be available because they are farming paddy. No
mm,
one is going to come to work at a plant. It's highly unlikely, because the community has rhythms of their own, like, so you have to be, you have to build according to the place. It will not be a cut, copy, paste, even in the same district in two places.
mhm,
So, how do you understand where you're setting up? For example, I don't know, if, like Divakarji was here, I think, from Pradhan. There are many facilities that we've seen which have been set up, especially in millets. The same push happened with millets, right? Like where there was immense funding to set up millet processing units. And rurally in Jharkhand also, there are quite a few units that are set up, decent machinery, but do not function. So, this whole concept of just setting up a unit is so flawed, in my opinion. There needs to be such a strong, there needs to be demand. There needs to be, not हम 50 प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं, हम 3 kick-ass प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं, and these are these 3 kick-ass products and they have good market. ऐसा नहीं कि आज प्लांट चल रहा है, अब ऑर्डर ही नहीं आए 3-4 महीने, फिर बंद हो गया, फिर दिवाली के समय ऑर्डर आया, फिर प्लांट चालू हो गया. That's not how you sustain a plant, right? Then your FSI norms start fading, your CIP, like cleaning, hygiene. A plant needs to be operational, So, as much as I would love to say in a utopic world, everything would happen at source, the current situations, ground realities do not really permit that to happen. In a lot of places, in some places, they might. So it has to be very place based. It has to be very sort of sensitive. Again, keeping communities at the heart of conversation, seeing our communities willing to do so, and then building these systems in places where communities have that time, have those resources, even time resources to sort of put into this, right? Only then, and then also having these products which are tried and tested and which will work in the market, which have a demand, or which you are sure you will create a demand of once the production is set up. So, because otherwise you have this curve of, oh, we're giving you employment, but then if products are not selling, that factory is a ghost factory and people are unemployed again. So it is more, I feel it's a very complex sort of an issue when it comes to, yeah. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Uh, I think when we go to enough conferences, we hear enough success stories. And in the lunch area, you hear about plants that are not working.
Hmm.
But every founder has. I mean, I think last week I was listening to this founder who have set up two processing centers, one in Meghalaya for pineapples, one in another state.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, how we have invested less than 25 lakhs, and now it's such a successful model, etc. Uh, I think what is problematic is how to replicate that success, because I mean, just because it has worked in one district. Um, in fact, what we wanted to for this, or what we wanted to analyze further, is also the experiment that Odisha government is doing in, I think, Sundargarh.
Okay.
So the whole state still prohibits sale of mahua,
Right.
but the district collector in one district has taken a special permission,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and they are actually setting up a processing plant to begin with. So
Like
they're
for
like,
liquor?
no. So for drying
Okay,
uh,
nice.
the cookies, etc., all that.
Awesome.
Uh, in fact, they have a tagline which says from bottle to something, from bottle to lifestyle or something.
Okay.
Uh, which which I think more than making people forget about bottle probably reminds them about bottle.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, true.
but let's see. I mean, so far, I mean, I think they have also faced success with cookies. Um, did not know about the mahua syrup at all. Um, but they're like, if there is demand, we will. So they're like, we have money. So if there is demand, we'll set up a factory. So coming to demand, we were talking to Chef Chef Sabissachi.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in fact, Sabissachi Gorai is the one who started uh, kind of putting indigenous produce on fancy menus back in 2011-12.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be the head chef for Olive's chain of restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who started the black rice sushi trend in
Okay.
India. Now it's everywhere, but he kind of started it. So when we were speaking with him, and Manisha was on that call, and we are saying, okay, how do more restaurants try mahua? And he's like, you have to talk to chefs, because chefs and in fact, he gave out a lot of interesting facts. He's like, okay, you say a special menu, but if I'm running six restaurants and one special menu has to be replicated in six, that's six different value chains, six different printing costs and procurement
Yeah,
managers and all that. So it's
totally.
like, you can blame us all you want, but it's not very easy for us to try a new ingredient.
Uh, It's
Uh,
not.
and if you remember, we spoke about frozen whole mahuas. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I using dried mahua? Why can't I use a fresh frozen mahua if I can get a blueberry in Delhi, fresh and frozen? Why can't I get a fresh and frozen mahua? And he's like, that's a product that I want to put out and make people try, and that's what I would like to try as a chef. Um, but I think that's a very basic question. I mean, when we talk to other chefs also, they're like, we don't know what a mahua tastes like. Um, and you said you have probably thought about doing
I have some in
a badge.
fridge. We did that last year. It survived for around 10, 12 months in its true form. We yeah, so we experimented a bit with it. But again, when Mahua season comes and you've been here for Mahua season, there are so many literal fires that we need to douse that these experiments at scale become very difficult to do. Hopefully in the next 2 3 years, when things are more stable, the supply chain is more stable, we're able to conduct these experiments with the fresh mahua flowers. um, what I
What
would
will it need in terms of, I mean, does it need a cold chain? Does it need money for,
needs a
a
cold
freezing
chain.
center?
Yeah, it needs a cold chain.
Or does it need demand first and then you can build the rest?
Yeah,
Like,
it needs the demand first. Again, like because the costs will be so high, if you just like take, and again, there needs a lot of testing. I don't even know if you like sort of, you know, like defreeze it, how will that flower be? You've seen how delicate the flower is,
yeah, yeah.
uh, way more delicate than a blueberry. It has a lot of water content, so um, it's a difficult thing to do. But yeah, definitely possible in the next 3, 4 years. The good thing with the dried mahua flowers is it's shelf stable. It's lasts for long, and then you can use it for multiple things, right? Like, and I mean, we struggle so much to get just good quality edible mahua flowers. So, that in itself is a big challenge. I'm sure Samarth or Manisha or everyone will echo my thoughts, or I will echo theirs. It's not easy to sort of get food grade mahua. To remove the stamen is not an easy chore in itself, So it's yeah, I think that is step two. Once sort of this stabilizes, and what I believe is if you really want fresh mahua flowers from any major Indian city, if you travel 1 to 2 hours, I bet you'll get fresh mahua flowers.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what Samath also said. Okay, we need processing innovation to remove the stamen.
Yeah,
Uh, because I said, there is machan that is drying, but in terms of innovation, tool innovation, what new tools do you need?
yeah.
And he's like, that's the first one.
Stamen
Remove the
removal,
stamen.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's a big one. Birsa Agriculture University has done some trials. We're in touch with
Which one?
them. Birsa Agriculture University,
Okay.
yeah. They have put out a paper also. I think it's an open source paper. Uh, yeah. It works only if you use a tray dryer and dehydrate it even more, and then remove the stamen. Um, but BAU has done some experiments with it. We've gone and tried that as well, but not very optimal. I mean, it's decent, but not, it doesn't 100% remove the stamen. Um, but yeah.
Okay. In fact, yeah, the second thing Sabi said is there is a procurement manager's platform. I'll kind of find out more about it. But when we said, how does a Mahua startup, or for that matter, a Google startup, etc., because the cost of taking it to a hotel or restaurant is so high, you need a team which constantly
Yeah,
travels,
yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah.
So he's like, that is a platform of organization or association of platform like procurement managers. He's like, while we are talking to chefs are like half the story. If they go to a procurement manager and he's like, okay, no, I'm not doing it, or I don't know any person, it's so he's like, you have to tell the companies that, and he's going to introduce us to the
Yeah,
association, that they have regular meetings, and that's where you need to be. Because
right,
if they
right.
have it on the top of their mind that, oh, I know a guy who supplies mahua, for the chef, getting approvals becomes much easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, okay. Towards the lot, I think what we also spoke with everyone is what kind of, let's say, everyone that we have spoken with has worked with a NIFTIM or any kind of a agri university, a food tech startup, etc. Um, so what I'll give you one example why I'm saying this, because while we are doing the turmeric study and
Mhm.
I was going through the local heart, um, you won't believe we saw 20 rupee packets of mixed berries, like a cranberry and
In the
uh,
local market.
yeah, like a fast food. I mean, I know the startup personally, Farmlay.
Yeah, 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 family, yeah.
So Farmlay has, and I'm like, okay, no, this is the kind of supply chain which we credit like a Pepsi or Coke to crack. But to get 20 rupees dried cranberry packets, and not just dried cranberry, I mean, they had other. exotic mixes, seeds and nuts and all that. And this in the heart of Kandhamal. And so I asked the shopkeeper, I mean, like, why do you store this? And who is buying cranberries here? He's like, maybe they're not buying today, but they'll buy tomorrow. So, uh,
That's very,
so
yeah,
you see that kind of, and I've seen Family come up. I mean, I know the name behind it.
yeah.
Uh, I know they do good work, but this is beyond good, right? So what does it take? Do you need more, you know, just a wish list? Like close your eyes and say, okay, this is what I wish could happen. Because, there is funding, there is strategic partnerships, there is go to market and all that. I mean, different parts will help you with different pieces. Um, but specifically about this, like taking Mahua to, let's say, 1 million people over the next 5 years. Um, and on the other side, we are also talking to, large advertising companies which I worked with, let's say Tata Sampann, etc. On what does it take to work with companies like yours. But it's not about Wild Harvest or any other company. What does it take? What will it take to see, that kind of farmlay kind of scale that Mahua in a plastic packet in a local heart?
See, mahua, like in Telangana, I've
Yeah,
heard of mahua being sold as a temple snack. So, you have to like see, like seeing cranberries or blueberries in an urban hut, or say strawberries, right? Like fresh strawberries
yeah.
or pasta. Like this wasn't there 5 years ago. It just started coming in, but that's something new. That's how trade works, right? Like that's something totally new. So it can attract someone going to the market. Whereas Mahua has always existed in the heart. I was in the heart on
Hmm,
Saturday.
hmm,
Mahua
hmm.
exists in the heart. It's not that it doesn't exist in the heart, right? What would be cool would be like, how, Gulgula being sold in the heart. It would be
Yeah.
amazing to see like local shops using Mahua and selling Mahua cookies in the heart. That's when it starts like coming back into the local food systems. And this is not, I'm talking about wild harvest mahua, like people saving mahua, making laddus and selling it at hearts. And that becomes synonymous, like a dhuska or a gulgula or a singhada, or a jalebi. Like mahua laddu, like you get in every heart.
Hmm,
That
hmm,
means, people are taking ownership of it. That I'm talking rural, where like a person goes, he buys a 5 rupee biscuit with his chai. There is like, how right now it's a full sugar, like heavy biscuit. If it's like mahua biscuits coming there as well, where people are feeling light after eating it, but getting that energy, taking
hmm,
pride, mahua biscuit kha rahe hain, and that becomes synonymous. For me, that is the way mahua. I would love to see mahua sort of reclaiming space in our heart as food. And in the urban context or in the sort of macro Indian landscape, I would love to see like a Whole Truth doing a mahua bar, or to begin with, and then hopefully like ITC does mahua biscuits, like or does baby food or something for pregnant women, like the so, like, bigger companies adopting mahua as food will instill a lot of confidence in people that mahua is food. And they are not going to buy some bad quality mahua. So it I hope that like we start seeing mahua as food in every level, and especially in the rural market or heart level. I really hope that communities take ownership of it, where right now they sort of sell it, and only liquor is made from it. I wish they can make some produce, and that adds to livelihood
hmm.
in a meaningful sort of manner. So that's how I would like to see mahua, percolate in food in different spheres.
two stories from there. One is obviously, I think what you said about mahua is also a cautionary tale about what happened with makhanas that became so expensive that the local people can't eat it anymore. So you don't want that to happen with mahua. I mean, clearly from what you said.
Not at
Uh,
all.
yeah. So while we are speaking with about exports, you said different consumer segments, ITC doing urban, etc. With Samarth, I was talking about um, mahua exports. In fact, we are talking to the lady from Madhya Pradesh who did the first export.
Mm-hmm.
But probably just one container, nothing happened ever again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Famous story in the
yeah,
Mahuas.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then again about jamun, and so there two three different conversations came up. One was Samarth was like, we should not actually be doing exports for foreseeable future, because we don't want anything to go out which is not market ready. Like we should actually standardize mahua, formalize standards, make sure that every mahua that comes out is actually good, and only then you think about export. Do not send out a container now, and if it comes back or has any kind
Yeah,
of
100%.
yeah, so let's not take that risk. So Rajesh of Travel Veda was like, uh, that Indian government needs to have a category, let's say, called wild fruits of India, which I kind of associated with, because when I was talking to other retail companies, they said we don't have a California Nuts Association, right? We don't have that kind of
Yeah,
a money or muscle and all that. But
right,
why can't we have a Himalayan Nuts Association?
right.
So saffron has its own, but other than that, both Himachal, Uttarakhand, I mean, you talk about all the Himalayan states, all of them have nuts, and all of them are being badgered by the imports. Um, so Rajesh of Travel Veda was like, can we talk to the government and have a category called wild fruits of India,
Mm-hmm.
which can be mahua, which can be jamun, which can be chironji, whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, that India's forest produce should be branded as such. Uh, where do you lie in this? Let's not export now, or to let's at least start branding from now.
See, I think it's as I told you, I feel every produce, when you categorize, for example, you said chironji. Now, most of the chironji is harvested so unsustainably, you have no idea, right? Like, again, short shelf life. Um, the whole branches of the tree are cut. Literally, today I was in the morning looking for rugda in Koinadi, and you look at a PR tree, PR is the chironji tree,
Yeah.
and they will just not grow, like it's just because it's an expensive produce, like it people don't know or have never been told. And of course, like it just gets over harvested. So I feel exports can be a good sort of segue. Um, but we need to tread it with caution. I will not comment on any other produce. Even with mahua, we keep getting interests on export. We're interested in exporting the product, etc. But the legal complications are so intense, especially say EU. If it's not in a novel food, no single organization can afford to get it accredited as a novel food in EU, right? Like there needs to be bilateral partnerships. And as totally agree with Samarth, I think it's kind of it's a little premature to think of mahua going as exports. As liquor feed also, it's very like until it's standardized, and sort of there are norms within the country, and then you sort of take it in the export market. I mean, why not? In my opinion, it should have export value, and we should
Mm.
try and export produce from India, especially uh, produce which is abundant, produce which is not niche. It might seem niche, but if you look closely, it's only, so definitely export should be a way, but it should be a more standardized way. We should, like, people who are doing food grade mahua should know, okay, these are the 10 tests that you need to do. Only then you're eligible, and it should be made a standardized way, standardized rates, stuff like that, as you were saying, this bonhomie and the small mahua community that we have is because luckily, I mean, this is so unique because I feel at least everyone I know in the space has the same intentions with Mahua. They have the same sort of principles and values, where they care about the forest, they care about the community. So that care needs to be really ingrained, Otherwise, again, you risk a lot of things. What you were saying, like communities not getting it to eat for themselves or stuff like that, can happen
Mm, mm.
in future. No threats right now, but how do you really plan this out for the people and communities, not just as an enterprise? That's, I think.
Uh, okay, just one last question. I mean, again back to exports. So you said I mean, we all know you, even for produce which has been exported for a decade. I mean, still, last few years they are facing increasing scrutiny, etc. Um, Apart from you, I mean, have you explored other geographies, had conversations? Um, you know,
We,
if you have to set out a roadmap, I mean, should you at least start now, or just completely hold back on the idea of exports?
I mean, we honestly like participated in biofark, tried
Yeah.
talking to people. There's some interest, then it dies away. Most people are interested in liquor. So UK also, we were in talks with this one startup in UK trying to do, was very passionate on sourcing ethically sourced mahua, do this mahua bottle, ran out of patience, ended up ordering from God knows who, So I think UK, you can still export, but us, honestly, we've taken a backseat on export.
Mm,
Because I feel there's enough domestic demand that needs to be created first. First, there needs to be so many information barriers that need to be decluttered. First, we need to really establish Mahua for what Mahua is, and not and for at least for us to know. I've heard this argument a lot that, oh, when we export it and the Westerners use it, then India will appreciate it. I don't know about that anymore. I feel there is a growing sense of pride um,
mm,
within the
mm.
country
Yeah.
for indigenous produce. And I think there is immense potential for first exploring the domestic market, sort of, and then slowly going towards inching towards export when there's more intent from multiple government organizations, multiple state governments, central government on the produce, where it's being recognized as for what it is, and then start building on the export story. First, I think there's a lot of misinformation that needs to be debunked. We need to, yeah, learn what things truly are, create a model for inclusivity and sustainability through this unique sort of value chain, and then start thinking exports in a couple of years. That's like my opinion on it.
Thank you, Rishabh. I mean, that's yeah. I've heard many arguments, but that kind of sums it up. That maybe not uh, kind of a rush into it.
Yeah, I
But
feel export sounds very sexy, right? Like everyone is like, oh, we export, and your ears stand up. You're like, whoa, he'll go abroad, its value will increase. But I feel there's merit in first, really, because it's very nascent. I'm sure you guys know this very well. It's at a
uh,
very Yeah.
I also know that if you have seen the Department of Commerce and EPIDA specifically, etc., last few years, I mean, we have gone into a lot of niche commodities like Amrapali
Yeah.
mangoes this year.
Right.
Uh, so we are selling small batches, very small
Right.
batches. I mean, maybe just one container. But
Right.
that's what the government has been intending to do.
Right. Right.
So my only concern about this is even if whether you think we're ready or not, it might just happen. And
No, no, that
uh,
I feel like again, if it's thoughtfully done, I think we're ready to do it, right? Like that's
yeah,
not by we, I mean like saying, okay, if you really know what the mahua is going for, if it's going for liquor, different standards, if it's going for food, different standards, you like you establish, you test it well, you have your studies in place before
hmm.
sending it, so the country also knows what it's receiving, right?
Also
And
how to consume it. I mean, if they don't know how to
and
consume it, then yeah,
exactly, exactly. So, like, if that information is
yeah.
streamlined, it's organized, and then you do it, sure. I mean, I think if there is intent and like push, it'll be amazing. But I don't think that should that should be the only focus point, or it should be sort of, oh, let's start. It should be phased, it should be gradual, it should be strategic. That's
Yeah, because when we, in a way, kind of doing that segmentation in the report that for the domestic market and for the export market, um, for a lot of, I mean, Jamun, etc., I mean, there are other companies have done it. I mean, there are pathways to
right.
follow. About Mahua, the domestic market story is absolutely pretty easy. The export is something that we don't want to actively push that, okay, that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
a timeline and we need to do this. But we also want to put in, kind of a
Yeah,
guardrails
for
saying
sure.
if you're looking at export, this is what uh, the guidelines or a timeline that we should be looking at. That
Right,
every step should be met before we move to the next.
right.
Uh, okay. I think I have all the answers that I needed, but thank you, Rishabh, for speaking to me again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to bye, Tanu, bye, Shali,
I think
and and you, yeah, and you let me know when you have the time. But anyway, I'll email that session
yeah,
to you.
we'll go through it, and if there's any edits, we'll send it across.
Okay. Thank you, Rishabh.
Okay,
Bye bye.
awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Just a little,
Tanushree.
just a small thing. I straight get into a meeting with DST after this to talk about Mahua. So all the best to all of us.
Oh, awesome. DST?
The
Uh,
Department of Science and Technology.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
All the best. Yeah, yeah. Have a great meeting.
you have fresh content and fresh,
Yes. So this
yeah.
was really helpful, but I get in like that's what we are going to discuss, the possibility of standardizations and if they can bring their agencies in. So
Awesome. Amazing.
okay.
Thank you
Okay.
so much,
Bye,
guys.
Rishabh.
Bye bye.